नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या संप्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वं यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत् तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथा मा गृधः कस्य स्विद्धनं कुर्वन्नेवेह कर्माणि जिजीविषेच्छतं समाः। एवं त्वयिनान्यथेतोऽस्ति न कर्म लिप्यते नरे। असुर्या नाम ते लोका अन्धेन तमसावृताः तांस्ते प्रेत्याभिगच्छन्ति ये के चात्महनो जनाः। अनेजदेकं मनसो जवीयो नैनद्देवा आप्नुवन् पूर्वमर्षत् तद्धावतोऽन्यानत्येति तिष्ठत् तस्मिन्नपो मातरिश्वा दधाति। तदेजति तन्नैजति तद्दूरे तदवन्तिके तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य तदु सर्वस्यास्य बाह्यतः। यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मन्येवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते। यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मैवाभूद्विजानतः तत्र को मोहः कः शोक एकत्वमनुपश्यतः। सपर्यगाच्छुक्रमकायमव्रणम् अस्नाविरं शुद्धमपापविद्धं कविर्मनीषी परिभूः स्वयंभूर्याथा तथ्यतोऽर्थान् व्यदधाच्छाश्वतीभ्यः समाभ्यः। अन्धन्तमः प्रविशन्ति ये अविद्यामुपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमो य उविद्यायाग्रताः। अन्यदेवाहुरविद्यया अन्यदाहुरविद्यया इति शुश्रुमधीराणां येनस्तद्विचचक्षिरे। विद्यां चाविद्यां च yastadvedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya mritamashnute andhantamah pravishanti ye sambhutimupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya usambhutya gungrataha. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. So, this mantra which we just pronounced, the 12th one, we had pronounced it in the last class. Yes. Yeah. So this one and the next two, 12, 13 and 14, these three verses, these three mantras, they go together, they belong to the same section, and they speak about the same thing, they discuss the same idea. After the Master talked about the universal principle, the universal oneness, which was the central message of the Ishavasya Upanishad, this Upanishad that we are studying. Now, the mantras that we started studying, these three mantras, the point that has been made in this section is that, and I touched upon this a little bit in my previous session as well, that in the pursuit of the universal, the idea is that one should not forget the individual as well. And that is what we do through the practice of yoga, because it connects us to the individual aspect of our being. Yoga, if we would look at yoga from an Upanishadic perspective, and Guruji very often talked about this. The Upanishads, they speak about the 5 different layers. The first one is the physical layer, Annamaya Kosha, the physical layer. The second layer is Pranamaya Kosha, the layer of the breath. Manomaya Kosha, the third layer, the layer of the mind, of Manas, which is the lower mind, in the sense that this continuous stream of thoughts that arises within the mind. That is the third layer. The fourth layer is Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnana means understanding, the layer on which understanding takes place. The layer which brings together, which collects the information of the external world with the help of the senses and then presents them in a coherent picture. That layer. And on that ego, the sense of I, all this exists on that layer. So, the path of yoga in the Upanishadic understanding, coming back to the Upanishadic understanding, first of all, asana helps us to work with the physical layer. Pranayama helps us to work with the layer of prana. The deeper practices of meditation help us to work with the rest of the layers. And each one of this layer, while the innermost substance, according to the message of the Upanishads, is one and the same within all, it is like the one sun is reflected in every mirror. It is the same one sun that is being reflected in every mirror. But every mirror is individual. Every mirror is different. Every mirror is unique. Some mirrors are round, some have 4 corners, some have 3 corners. Depending on the shape of the mirror, each mirror is unique and different. So while the Upanishadic teachings, because they are the very advanced aspect of yoga, they give us an understanding of the universal, the similarity, the underlying similarity amongst all, but at the same time, it is important to fully understand and become aware of one's uniqueness. And when I say this, I mean it very, very literally. Not simply understanding a physical body by dissecting a physical body. That is anatomy. And it is extremely, extremely helpful for a yogic practitioner. No doubt about that, because one cannot look within one's own body. So that wisdom, that modern scientific wisdom that we have achieved, we need to benefit from that. And I think that is one of the great achievements of Guruji, that he worked with an understanding of anatomy. But then an inner understanding of, with one's own living body, how different parts of my own body feel to me, how they feel in different postures. That is a very different kind of understanding, in which anatomy will be extremely helpful, but somebody who has studied only anatomy without yoga will be like someone who has studied everything about colors but has never actually experienced it, has never actually seen a color. Studied everything. Just think, this is a thought experiment that comes again and again in psychology books when they discuss qualia. Then they say, just think about somebody called Grace. Since ever she was born, she lived in a dark room, never saw light, never experienced colors. Yet everything about colors has been told to her. She knows everything. Yet, would it be the same as experiencing colors or not? That is the question. I would opt to say that it cannot be the same. Because the experience of color which she will have once she comes out of that dark room and see the green color, the red color, it would be a life-changing experience for her, because she has not seen it ever. So similarly, that's the point that I want to make, is that anatomy helps us with understanding a body, someone's body. But with the help of that, when we connect with our own body, then we understand our own unique body. And that understanding will be completely unique. The same is true about our breath. The same is true about our mind. We can study psychology. We will know a lot more than the yogis ever understood about the mind. What modern psychology and neurosciences have come up, the understanding, the wisdom, the knowledge that has come up as a result of that is tremendous. Tremendous. Yes. But with the help of that wisdom, when I will connect with my own mind, with my own memory, with my own different faculties, when I will understand them, that understanding, which a neuroscientist or a psychologist without meditation cannot achieve, and they anyway, at least as far as behaviorism was concerned, first-person experience was completely rejected. But now again, it is coming back into the field of psychology, and it is slowly being credited, yet with some apprehension, with some reservation. Yet this is first-person understanding of the mind, which is what meditation can give us. So the point is that yoga helps us to connect with this uniqueness of our being. Now, a Vedantin would say, but this is mitya. This is mitya. And mitya, illusory. This is illusory. The body is illusory. The mind is an illusion. All this is an illusion. Why should I even bother about it? That common Vedantins, you can hear that. First of all, mitya doesn't really mean, and this is a very common misconception that should be made clear. There are two words, maya and mitya, which have been highly misunderstood, particularly as a result of translations into English. Often mitya is translated as illusion. But if you look clearly at the word mitya, the way Vedantins explain it, it is something that simply cannot be categorized as something that is ever present and yet is also not completely non-existent. That is what Vedantins call mitya. Because Vedantins, we will have to come back to the same problem that we had the other day about reality. Reality, and I realize after your discussion, I realized that reality in the West means something very different than the word sat in Vedanta. And yet, it is always translated with reality. Sat, when the word sat, pure existence, is used, which is satya, which is the truth, the definition is so clear, so specific that something that is ever present, something that was, is, and will be, that something that is continuously present. That thing is in relation to that which is present for a shorter period of time is sat. And the other one is asat. So for example, if we just live for 100 years, compared to us, the earth is sat. And we can call ourselves asat. But only compared to the earth and compared to us, earth will be sat. But we will be asat. Now, the earth, of course, Vedantins' examples are different, but I'm giving examples that are more readily understandable for us today. So, the earth, compared to the sun, is asat. And the sun, compared to the earth, is sat. Like this, when we go further and further and further and further, then the entity which remains, existence itself, That entity is what they call the Supreme Sat. That Supreme Presence. That is what, when the word Sat is used, for example, Om Tat Sat, Om, that Sat, pure existence, we mean that Supreme Sat. And anything compared to that is Asat. Whether it exists for 13 billion years, or whether it exists for 1 million years, or whether it exists for 100 years, or whether it exists for 1 year, or 1 day, or 1 second. That is compared to that Sat. In Vedanta, we will use the word Asat. And the same word for Asat is also mitya, because the problem is that neither it is, you cannot say that it is completely non-existent. Why you can't say that? You can say that, for example, about the typical Vedantic example is the horn on a hare, the horns of a rabbit. That is completely non-existent. Something that exists for 100 years, or even just for 1 minute, or just for 1 second, is not like that. Is not like the horns of a rabbit, which is completely non-existent. So you can't put it into that category, something that is completely non-existent, nor you can put it into this category, which is ever-present. So then they have brought this intermediate category, which they call mitya, which they call asat. Now it is translated with illusion. It is translated with, I would say, rather momentary, temporary. Momentary reality, temporary reality. So, yes, the body is mithya. Yes, the mind is mithya, and it is not sat, very true, but it is still in this present moment. That is the reality. Even if it was not just before 35 years in my case, it was nowhere to be found. For millions and millions of years, there was no Siddhartha ever to be found. The Siddhartha that I am now. And then after 30, 40, 50, 60 years, whenever, I don't know. Again, that reality will take over. That there will never, ever be somebody called Siddhartha. This person will cease to exist. But now it exists. At this moment, however short time this would be in comparison to the great periods of time which work in this universe, yet still it exists. And we have to accept that. We have to acknowledge that. Rejecting that will create a lopsided personality. So that is what yoga does. That it helps us to connect with the reality as it is, while Vedanta makes us aware of the universal reality, the underlying reality. Yoga connects us with the reality which has come into existence in this moment. In other words, yoga keeps us grounded in our individuality. And I think this is actually what the Upanishadic masters and what the yogic masters really wanted. Because if you look at Atman, at the description of Atman in the Upanishads, Anuraniyan, it is the tiniest as well as the mightiest. So they have both in their vision. They have the tiniest, whatever their understanding was of the tiniest, the smallest, and what I am as an individual, a small speck of dust on the grand scale of this universe. Yet they did not reject it. For them, that was equally important, the tinier than the tiniest, and the mightier than the mightiest. They had both in their visions. They had both in their eyes. Anoraniyan, the tiniest, and Mahato Mahiyan, and the mightiest. Both. When Patanjali speaks about Chitta Parikarma, about purification of the heart for the sake of meditation, he also speaks Paramanu Parama Mahatvantosya Vashikaraha. That sutra, that a yogi acquires mastery or capability to dwell upon the tiniest and also the mightiest. So they had both in their eyes, in their vision. They were not rejecting. They were not rejecting the the tiniest for the mightiest, nor they were rejecting the mightiest for the tiniest. They were creating a synthesis of both. And therefore, and again, this is one thing that points in the Upanishads to the importance of yoga, because yoga connects us with the mightiest, and it does not only connect us with the tiniest, but that is the only path that we have. By understanding the tiniest, a person awakens into the mightiest. This is another idea that underlies yoga and underlies the Vedantic understanding of the Upanishads, that what the Upanishads call Bhuma, the mightiest, the greatest. Another word for Brahman, Bhuman, the biggest, the mightiest. Where is it to be experienced? Because it is omnipresent, it can be experienced anywhere. But where can it be experienced the best? Within one's own self. And therefore, yoga does that. It helps us from a very physical level, because that is where the journey has to start. For those people who exist on a physical level, for those people who understand, who have no other understanding, when we speak about ourselves, if all that we understand is our own physical body, then the journey has to start from there. If the journey will start from anywhere else, if it will start from prana, if it will start from the mind, but somebody who lives in his body, if the journey will start from somewhere else, it will be a mental journey, it will be a psychological journey, but it cannot be a practical, experiential journey. If our experience exists on a physical level, the journey has to start from there, and a person has to develop from there. So that is what asana does. It brings us back to our physical body. And from there, as a person, what the Upanishads call, when they speak of meditating on this physical layer, which means by meditating on the physical layer, we draw back our awareness, which is scattered in the world around. One can speak about drawing back one's awareness. Maybe in the mind it's happening, but is it really happening? The body, when we do asana, when we master asana, then in every asana, our practice, what do? We draw back the awareness that is scattered all around. Otherwise, our asana will go wrong. We have to draw back. So that is what etam annamayam atmanam upasankramya, when the Upanishads say, by meditating on the annamaya, by meditating on the physical body, first of all, one draws back awareness that is scattered. And then by focusing on the prana, one draws back one's awareness even from the physical body. So that is just one step. We use the physical body as one step to draw back our awareness from the external world. Then the prana is used to draw back our awareness from the body. Then the manas is used to draw back our awareness from the prana. Then Vijnanamaya Kosha, that layer is used to draw back. Like this, a person, this is a practical step-by-step method that the Upanishads point out. But where does it start? It starts from the physical body, from the individual. And that is what the Maharshi, the master of this mantra, when he speaks of the asambhuti and sambhuti, when he speaks of asambhuti, which means the body, he connects us with that individuality, with that uniqueness. So that inner center that he has been talking about, which a person reaches after transcending all the different layers, is that inner center only present there? Or is it also present in every layer? This is the third idea. That is also that I think the best way to explain it is to give an example. Today with laser techniques, we can create holograms. And for example, we have a hologram in which you see a complete car. Now the hologram is created in such a way that each tiny bit of the hologram has the whole picture in it. So by which what I mean is that if, for example, you break the holographic picture and you just have that part which was earlier the tire of the car, if you just have that part, you will still see the whole car in it. The point which I want to make is that even in the tiniest, the mightiest has given itself, is present. In a small mirror, you don't see a tiny little bit of the sun being reflected, but the whole sun is reflected in it. My father used to express it very poetically because he spent a lot of time in Kashmir, in the Dal Lake, the beautiful Dal Lake with lotus flowers there. So he says that when I used to be in the shikara, in the boat, and if I would take a drop and sprinkle it on the lotus leaf, and it would sprinkle down, yet for that split second till it sprinkled down, I could see the whole sun being reflected in that small little drop. The whole sun up there is reflected in that small little drop. And this is not only a poetic idea. It's not only a poetic idea. If we look at our body on a cellular level, this is exactly the case. That every cell, even if you take away one cell from your fingertip, then all information, all description for everything else within my body, for the color of my eyes, the shape of my eyes, the color of my hair, all information is present within that small little cell. Isn't it amazing? The entire body has given itself to each and every cell. And yet every cell is specific. Every cell does its specific work. Some kind of individuality arises in it, and yet it retains an awareness of the unique. this universe, the universal. Yet it is individual. This doesn't mean that the cell of my livers start doing the work of the cells of my brain and start thinking here. Yet it has the information to become that. Yet it becomes unique and it sticks to its unique work and yet retains the information within it. So it is somehow connected with the complete and yet creates a unique character. That is what I see the world view of the Upanishadic masters of an individual being. And the way that what we have forgotten to create the awareness that on one side we are part of that universal, to have an awareness of that universal, and at the same time becoming aware of our uniqueness, our individuality, and which is deeply related also to our individual dharma. That is why dharma, which is translated with laws, laws is general. The idea of dharma in Indian culture has been very person-specific. Everybody's dharma is unique. My dharma cannot be my father's dharma, which is my duty, my place in the society, how I need to react to the society, how I need to live in the society. That is a unique thing. That is swadharma. That is my own dharma, and only I can find it. The masters can help me. That is, when they try to explain dharma, the masters help us to find our own dharma. But they cannot come up a list and say, okay, Siddhartha, this is your dharma. This is not possible. So there are no lists, but there are methods to understand. And yoga, once again, helps us to connect with that individuality, with understanding ourselves. So this is what this mantra that we pronounced in our previous class and we ended with in this pronunciation, in this recitation right now. He starts by stating that those who are lopsided, those who are just connected with their body, yes, they will enter a state of blinding darkness. But they still have some hope, because maybe at some point they will realize their limitation. And that is the beautiful thing about yoga. People come to yoga for a good body, for a healthy body, for a beautiful figure. That is what they come. But mostly those who remain for a deeper purpose, because they realize that I'm not only my body, but I'm also my breath, I'm also my mind. Is it enough just to work with my body? Does that only give me a healthy body? Or do I also need a healthy mind? Do I also need a healthy thinking pattern? Do I also need a healthy faculty of understanding? Do I need health on all these different levels? And that is when the true depth, because for him, he was his body. So he came for the sake of his body to yoga. And yet, when he stayed with it and realized it, that is when a deeper thirst to go deeper into the practice, to go deeper into oneself arises. That is what yoga does. So he still has some hope. Somebody who is limited only to his body. He's blinding darkness. Unfortunately, he will never be able, he's not never, but he's not able to know the deeper consciousness, substance within himself, because he's limited to his body. And he's concerned with that. So that is a blinding darkness. But what about that one? And here he is funnily saying that Tatu bhuya ivate tamo, but into still greater darkness enter those who are only engaged in sambhuti. And sambhuti means in the cause, in the universal, in consciousness. And here, I'm sorry, when I did the translation, I followed somebody else's commentary and I explained in my previous classes, so I will not explain again why I'm following now a different commentator, because on our level of understanding, the message with this explanation is more meaningful. So, somebody who is just philosophizing, mentally thinking about consciousness, but not taking the practical steps. That is what I'm seeing when it comes to meditation, when it comes to the deeper teachings. Yes, people are studying it. People are teaching it. But how many of them have done the practical steps of asana, pranayama, and meditation to prepare themselves? How many have taken the practical steps of karma yoga, engaging oneself in selfless deeds as a preparation before they go into bhakti yoga and dhyana yoga? How many have addressed the foundation? And then it remains something psychological, something mental. Experiential thing does not come. And for such a person, it is very challenging to come back to the very first steps and start from there. That is why such a person who is now already, because of his knowledge of the scriptures, because of his elegant discourses that he can present in front of people, because of his whatever may be the cause of his respect in the society, how can he come back and start studying from someone asana? Asana. How? So he would have to throw away his ego, which has been built up because there is no practical aspect. So his ego will become stronger and stronger and stronger, and that will block him from coming back into the very first steps. And therefore, he has even less hope than someone who is only connected with his body, because he still has hope. And this is what in this shloka, in this verse, in this mantra, Maharshi Dadhyanga Atharvana and the commentator Uvvata, 10th century, when he says that those who run away from their duties, from the actions, selfless deeds, and the very active approach that they need to take, which is challenging. You have to take upon yourself so much pain in asana practice, in pranayama, in meditation. Do you think meditation is relaxing? Yes, it is. At some point it is, but initially it's a big challenge. One has to fight. The mind wants to run out of the room, does not want to sit in meditation. And yet, that internal struggle that takes place, it can be tormenting, it can be tremendous. So, these rosy ideas that we have about meditation, they all fly into our faces when we, yes, that comes later, but initially it's a lot of challenge. When we see Guruji in these postures, oh, how beautiful he looks. And then a little bit, can't even reach. Oh, Guruji could do it because he had a very flexible body. I will never be able to do it because I don't have a flexible body. Well, Guruji was not born with a flexible... Yes, everybody is born with a flexible body, but by the time he started practicing yoga, I think it was Guruji who said I couldn't even touch the knees. That is how stiff he was. He had so many sicknesses that he was extremely stiff. But he worked. So somebody, as Uvvata he explains, that somebody who runs away, who escapes from his actions, from his duties, and has yet not understood the tininess, the limitation of the intellect with which we understand everything, and therefore is just engaged in the knowledge of the self, not in the wisdom, but in the knowledge, in the scriptural knowledge, teaching about it, discussing about it, talking about it. Just in that, in the knowledge. And very easily he would say, Atmaiva asti. All this is pure self. Nanyat kinchid asti. There is nothing else. All this is just pure consciousness. As if. And then suddenly a lizard falls from the top, from the roof. And he is jumping. Why is that not consciousness? If everything is consciousness. And therefore, Atmaivasti nanyat kinchit nanyat karmadini. We don't need to work. We don't need to do all these things. Asanas are not required. Pranayama, these are useless techniques. All this is consciousness. We hear these things. So, such people are in greater blinding darkness. Because for them to see their darkness, who live in an illusion, those who live in an illusion of their body, they have a chance of waking up into the awareness of consciousness. But those who live in the illusion of consciousness, for them it will be very difficult to come back to their individuality, to their body, to their being. And yet, a complete yogi, the way we saw Vidyaranya Muni, this 12th century great master of Advaita Vedantic traditions, how he emphasizes tremendously on being a yogi as well as Paramahamsa, based on the Upanishadic ideas, and says only someone who has united both, who has united the practical aspect of yoga and the deep experiential understanding of Vedanta, somebody who has united both in his life, he is Mahapurusha. That is the definition of a Mahapurusha. A Mahapurusha means a great soul, a great person, an extraordinary person. The other two, no. But it is in the union of these two understandings of the individuality and the universal aspect that a person becomes Mahapurusha. So, okay, we will proceed to the next verse. Again, we will come back to this section in the next shloka. Still 2 shlokas in this section need to be discussed. So we'll come back to this in our next class. Let us have a few questions.
It's amazing every time you talk about the Vedas and Vedanta, how some of the similarities with modern physics, about the quantum mechanics, the small picture, the big picture. It's amazing to me how the rishis, without having any of that type of understanding, because of course modern physics is modern, or biogenetics with DNA, when we're talking about each cell, all of that. It's amazing how much they knew.
I think because the moment you go a little bit deeper into any part of this reality, you come across the same structure. And so what they did in meditation, they entered themselves, they entered consciousness, they found the same structure. Today scientists are going deeper within matter. We have created this dichotomy between matter and consciousness. Again, a dichotomy that Vedanta tries to bridge. And that is the proof. That even if they are not using the same language and same terminology, one can very easily see that the structures that they are seeing are so similar to what modern science is seeing. Yeah.
I have a question, actually, just something to clarify. You're saying very clearly, you're explaining how everything is sat and then asat. You're talking about mitya. So mitya, when people say that it's an illusion, something that's not here, and then you were explaining how you are here, as we all are here physically. So if you are not mitya, you as in all of us, what is the word in Sanskrit for that? Is there a word for what we are? That is, because mitya doesn't seem to be a very clear word. We are both
Mithya simply means...
Those are two words.
Yeah, no, mithya exactly means that something which is both. Something which is like in twilight you have a little bit of light and you have darkness.
Yeah.
You have both. So similarly, anirvachaniya or mithya, something that cannot be categorized in either categories. That is mithya. That is it.
So what are we?
Yeah, that is what.
Mitya.
The body, the mind, which has a momentary existence, that belongs to that category. Because it is neither supremely existent, nor it is completely non-existent like the horns of a rabbit. So they are existent for a short while, and therefore they fall into this category. Yes. So in that sense, we are mithya. When the grand Vedantic statement, Brahma Satyam, pure consciousness is the supreme truth, and Jagat mithya, the world is mithya, the world is an illusion, and Jiva, the individual consciousness, is Brahman and nothing else. Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Then when Vedantins say, the world is mithya, then the next question that somebody asks, okay, if this wall is mithya, then tell the Vedantin to walk through this wall, because it is an illusion. He should be able to. That is because they don't understand the word.
So we can't, the word, the translation is just, we are mitya, we're not an illusion.
Yes.
The Bible says we are illusion. So we are not illusion, we are mitya.
Only when we want to be.
Any questions from anybody else? Yes?
I'm just curious because my name is Maya.
Yeah, that is why I said Maya. Yes, the same thing. Maya is mithya. The whole idea in Vedanta about Maya is that Maya cannot be categorized. You cannot say that it is existent, completely existent, and at the same time you cannot say that it is non-existent. It is that energy which is present within consciousness and which assumes all these forms that we see. So that energy. How would a person... There is a beautiful shloka about Maya. Trying to remember it. It's on the tip of my tongue, but...
Because a lot of Indians, they're like money, or like magic, or like magic. A lot of Indians that I see that they're Maya, it's like money, or like, so, and I was like...
No, the derogatory application of the word Maya is a new thing. The derogatory application of Maya, which we see in modern Indian culture and modern Indian thinking is a new thing. That all this is Maya, therefore. This is the lopsided thing. That's exactly the lopsided thing. What the Vedantins saw, and particularly, I think, Kashmir Shaivism, and explored this idea, and the Shakta traditions took it even further, that again, Maya, which means that Shakti, and Brahman, which means Shiva, they are just two different descriptions of the same entity. Now, how you approach it, that is your choice. Somebody might take the approach of consciousness, that is the Vedantin approach, pushing aside Maya, only a little bit. Vedantins don't reject Maya, they just push it aside and just push it, because the mind can only focus on one thing. So they are focusing on consciousness, on Chit, on Shiva. What Kashmir Shaivism has done, that it has brought both together. It gives equal importance to Shiva and Shakti. What the Shakta traditions have done, that they try to approach the same essence through Shakti, through energy. So it's just consciousness and energy. Somebody focuses more on consciousness, somebody focuses on both, and somebody focuses more on energy. But to say that Maya is something derogatory, yes, Maya creates this illusion, fine. That is the work of energy. But that does not make Maya something derogatory. And that is why on a practical approach, on a practical either Shiva or Shakti, both are worshipped, both are meditated upon. And even within Vedanta, within Shankaracharya's tradition, there is this Srividya tradition, which completely focuses on the energy aspect. So its focus is more on Maya than on Brahman. So that Maya is actually a very deep and a very beautiful idea, and it's that it is all this is Maya. This has to be transcended, and sort of like ego has become something derogatory, Maya has become something derogatory. I don't like that. That is based on some misunderstanding. Again, the kind of lopsidedness that we were talking about. Or maybe, I don't know. Yeah, ignorance. But, and I think this ignorance, this kind of ignorance has taken root in all different religions, where always the male aspect has acquired prominence, and the female aspect, though if you go deeper into various religions, even the female, which is, by female I just mean the Shakti aspect, because there is nothing like male and female in the divine, it's just consciousness and energy. That's all. But that aspect, that mother aspect, that divine mother aspect, has mostly been fully rejected in most religions. And though it existed, if there was Allah, there was Allah. Many Christian mystical traditions had Sophia, the feminine aspect of God. In Judaism, yes.
About when they say in our form, it's like they mean not in like two in a way. It's like someone says it's like a female and a male, like God is a female and a male. Because when they are speaking in the Bible, I don't know how to translate it exactly, but they say that God created a woman and man in our form and in.
Yeah, that's the biblical.
Like, and it's like not in there. It doesn't talk like in one. It talks about like in.
Two, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like something very interesting there.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea and anyway, archaeologists today say that if one looks at archaeological discoveries, there was no male figure ever to be excavated before 1000 BC. All you can go back to thousands and thousands of years. Every time that what you excavate is a female deity, a female figure. And if then slowly a male figure came, first of all as children of female deities, and then eventually they took over and they became the main aspect. But for example, even in the Rig Veda, Aditir Dyauhu. Now this is a very different description. On one side you have the descriptions of Brahman, pure consciousness. Then you have a description of Aditi, which is the divine mother, the mother of all gods. Then you see Aditir Dyauhu, she is this realm of light. Aditir Antariksham, she is the interstellar space. Aditir Dyauhu, Aditir Antariksham, Aditir Mata, she is the mother. Sapita, she is also the father. Saputraha, she is also the son. Aditir Dyauhu, Aditir Antariksham, Aditir Mata, Sapita, Saputraha. Vishve Deva Aditihi. All the radiant beings are manifestation of that Aditi. Vishve Deva Aditihi. Panchajana Aditihi. All human beings are a manifestation of that Aditi. Aditir Jatam, whatever came into existence was Aditi, and Janitvam, whatever will come into existence is Aditi. So this is a very, very Shakti-oriented, female-oriented, or energy-oriented, Maya-oriented description of the reality. Not Brahman, but Aditi, the divine mother. Yes?
What happened that change? Corresponding to this time that we are living, that change
Agriculture.
Agriculture changed it in the sense that it made it more patriarchal, the society.
Before agriculture, things were gifts. You know, your hunting hill or your gathering food was a gift.
See the
from
point.
Great Mother.
Yes.
And once the connection was made between the planting of the seed and the reaping of the crop, then it was no longer a gift from somebody else. It was something I made.
Okay. So the I got strengthened.
And ownership. You need to stay in one place and guard your crop until you reap it.
Yeah.
So possession.
Yeah. Possessiveness.
Control and ownership.
Yeah.
Which extended to female bodies very quickly.
Which extended to female bodies very quickly. Yes. She became a property. Yeah. That's where you plant a seed. Yeah. So again, if earlier the complete focus was only on the female aspect, that was lopsided. Then again, now we have the other extreme. Now the question is whether we can create a balance today by. That's the yes.
So I was just going to say, by about 1000 BC.
By 1000 BC.
Yes.
Yes.
That was the mid-Bronze Age. So
That was the
the mid-Bronze Age.
mid-Bronze Age.
So
Yeah.
farming had increased, weapons production had increased.
Yeah.
Large amounts of forests were cut down to make way for farming.
For farming. That's what she was. Yeah. Exactly. That's what she was. Yeah.
Existence before.
Yeah.
So that could possibly be one reason why things got more
Male-oriented.
as opposed to worshiping nature, worshiping the forest.
Yeah.
Became more about chopping down the forest and then fencing it off.
Mm.
And there was also a build up to mass slavery as well. Though slavery had been in existence. 200-300 years later, say around 600-700 BC, slavery increased dramatically as well. So could be some reasons for it. This is a good question.
What is next?
And then the wars.
The next is that both work together to completely.
You
unite.
Yeah, it's very
Artificial
cool.
intelligence.
Sorry?
Artificial intelligence is what it is about.
It's got developed so much today. It's like everything, even in the most like ridiculous commercials, it's all like that. It's just like, you know, sometimes in Facebook you see, you can share these things and there's like commercials of like how everything is about the woman's body and they sell to you these products out of that. It's like you can buy this, you can buy these things also. And it's like even in our subconscious, it's so deep in everything since we were born, it's like this. So in order to change it, we really like...
I think that, I mean, this is my, it can be argued against, but if I would ask myself what I would want, I'm a male body. So, and yet, within myself, this is an external appearance, yet within myself it is very logical that I'm a creation of both, of male and female. So both are present within me. Now if I just focus only on my male aspect and keep on strengthening that, which is already strengthened. You know, in our asana practice, what did you say yesterday? If you can't do your asana on one side, there is always one side which is better and one side which is less. So then you have to work more on that side on which you are weak. So because I am a male body, my male side is already more strengthened. It comes more naturally within me. In most cases, in most males' cases, this would be the case. Yet maybe there are men outside who feel completely trapped as a woman trapped within a male body. That's a different discussion. I don't have that feeling. And yet, now, can I strengthen the female aspects in my body, in my being, in my thoughts, in my ideas, compassion, love, what I see, the female properties? Can I focus more on them? And I should. That would bring, on this level, reality will be lopsided. On the physical level, we will be either men or women. We cannot be both at once. But deep within ourselves, in our understanding, we find we can acquire that unification. We can acquire that complete being by, as a man, strengthening our female aspect. And you see, yoga and Vedanta, they are not about about social changes, that the society has to be changed. For yoga and Vedanta, the individual is addressed, the individual has to be changed. And if the individual is changed, the society will change by itself. Otherwise, if you try to press a change into the society, you create reactions. Marxism was a beautiful idea. Karl Marx had beautiful ideas. But it went wrong because people were not ready. The individuals took it on the wrong path. There are beautiful religions. All religions are beautiful. Every religion has a beautiful message. And yet individuals take it on the wrong path. So one cannot impose a beautiful idea on the society. One has to create it within the society. That is the yogic approach.
The problem is also when leaders are use this as a bad idea. Like if you look at the Quran and Islam, when the Khalif, the way they use it, or like Christianity, the way Caesar at the beginning used it, and everything is like, I think when you think about it, like today we are controlled by media, and everything that you get from the media.
From the media.
The people that decide what you're gonna see.
Yeah.
It's just more sophisticated today,
Yeah.
because they're not supposed to be like treat women like this, or you're not supposed to use violence, or like people are not trained anymore. So they kind of like sophisticated the system into like a media system that gets this idea in your head and control you by this underneath messages that you get out of like being part of like
A
society,
bigger society.
So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
always,
To question everything, always.
Exactly.
Question.
I agree with what you're saying, Siddhartha, but I also believe that men should actually be more masculine.
Sorry?
believe that men should actually be more masculine
Mm-hmm.
at this stage in evolution.
Mm-hmm.
One of the key concepts of masculinity is to be fearless. The big problem in history and present day is that there's much fear of femininity, which is why femininity is
I'm somehow, you're saying beautiful things, but and I'm sure that everybody sitting here, as I said, that is my own, but anybody can completely argue against it, and it could be, it is questionable. So wonderful that you are coming up with the idea why we should be more masculine.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now.
I was just saying, and I agree with what you say, and definitely qualities like compassion should be developed. But I also believe that a key stage in evolution is for men to actually become more masculine.
More masculine.
And a key part of masculinity is to be fearless.
Is to be fearless. Yes.
And there's been much fear of femininity in history,
Yeah.
which has resulted in control of femininity.
Yeah.
But when I use the term masculinity, and there should be more of it, people tend to say, oh no, we don't need more of that. But masculinity is not about controlling, it's not about living in fear and having to control things around you. This is not masculinity.
Yeah.
I think this should be understood.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
But I hope you are not implying that women. I won't say anything.
Women are fearless.
Yes, that is.
That
That was the implication.
They have to become more fearless. Okay, now I got what you're saying.
Maybe everyone.
But with education, I think in a general way, what Leonardo was talking about, the changes coming about with more education for women, just on a,
Yeah.
more earthly way.
Yeah.
The more women become educated, then less ignorance, and that way, and after that, they can be taken to a higher level. Because many women all over the world, until just a few years ago, we didn't even vote, we couldn't go to school, we couldn't, so say in 200 years.
Even now, there are countries where women
we
cannot
have done
vote.
just so much, and of course, as Terence was saying, men are afraid. It's like, well, what's happening here? So that way,
It's a good example.
It's not just education, it's attitude. Because there are so many education women, but they can't go, where the seal mirror.
Glass.
Yeah, the glass mirror. Nobody, it's not just education.
no, but
It's all
I think it
attitude.
starts from
But
that.
it's attitude.
It's attitude.
But
Yeah.
it starts.
Yeah, I hope such discussions will open up such things.
Today in my school we had admission. So we had interview with the children. We had 2 groups, 40 children today. So we made them into groups. And it was amazing. The girls, 3 years girls, mostly were girls, they just came in, started playing, talking with each other, talking to us. And they were so happy inside playing, and it was so beautiful. They didn't thought about the mother or father outside, nothing. And then there were 6, 7, 8 boys, but they were just outside and crying. And it was not speaking a word at all, and the girls were just so beautiful, really. And then I told him, and it was, and then he said to me, what did you say to me, that Solomon, King Solomon, in the Old Testament, he wrote a beautiful song. What was that song?
And I can't say it in
Yeah,
English,
but more or less.
more or less it describes quite long all the things that a woman is doing, very long, very descriptive, amazingly language, and then in one small sentence he speaks what the man is doing. And that is, he sits at the gate and speaks with his friends.
Well, you have 1,000 wives, so.
Even at that time. It was really, then I their behavior, and bring up a boy equally like a girl,
And
they are girls, they have to go to the school, they have to cook at home, they have to do everything, they have to help at home, the whole, and they are maybe just 10 years old. Like I was a renter, the electrician, the mother is sick, is at home, so the 10 years old girl, she has to look for the brother, she has to cook for the father, she has to cook for the family, and she has to go to the school. And it's amazing how the girls in India, in all India, during the end of the year, in the examinations, they are standing high.
Yes.
The boys are nowhere. Not really.
Yeah.
It's really true. It's really true.
I think
Do
that
you supposed to control them?
That's the only thing they have left, is that?
Right.
So now parents
Very
have
good.
to really change.
Yeah.
Yes,
the
they
masters tried it again and again, but people simply just, they take the words but don't get the spirit. For example, there is such a, when a daughter is born, we usually say, Lakshmi is born into our family.
We say
You know,
Lakshmi is born.
Lakshmi is born, but how many people actually, they say it, but how many people actually believe in it? This is the question.
It's changing in India. 'Cause all
It's
the
changing.
Indian
Now
girls
it's
also,
changing. Yes, because people have understood.
they say
People are
my
seeing.
daughter, she's studying, she's really good. Oh, my son is.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
say it's changed.
All of them.
You say it's
It's
changed,
changing.
but 1 in 8 girls are killed before their birth is registered still.
Yes,
Yes,
of course.
still
of
it
course.
happens.
1 in 8 disappear.
Yeah, this is another big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still,
The mentality, at least-
parents, they say they don't bother if it's a boy or a girl.
Earlier it was not like this.
Slowly, it's
Process is very slow. The process is
yeah, but at
Yeah.
least changes.
Yeah, exactly.
And more such ideas when we... Okay, so beautiful when everybody joins in. It really becomes fun. It really, we learn from each other so much. So thank you very, very much for your contribution. We will conclude with this short prayer of universal well-being. One thing is sure, humanity is getting better every day, day by day. Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi.